Spurs have some of the worst starting fixtures. Two amazing first two fixtures, but if you're looking at the five, they have Newcastle and Arsenal to come in the middle of that. Why do you think people aren't putting any Spurs players in?
I think how they ended their season last season, and I just think with all the media and controversy happening with the Derby Day and throwing Arsenal and just all of that stuff, I just don't think they're in a good place mentally. I don't think the team is in a very good place. With James Maddison getting taken out, they really needed to perform. Son wasn't really able to provide anything. We had Charleston scoring, which was crazy, but with all of that in mind, I think it's not really a team that you can trust until you've seen it happen. Son, I want to say, is that premium player like Salah because he can be proven, but I think Son needs some time to see what he can give the FPL managers.
I think they should a striker, and I think if they get, for example, let's say they get Tony, we might actually be lifting Spurs up because they had one player.
They still didn't have a 9, yeah.
Team.
And it's not Son's not a 9. Like, he can, but it's just not for him. It's just not for him. But if it can be Son, Tony, and Maddison, that's something to look at. That is definitely something to look at.
And your own boy, the boy that actually pivoted you, is a man, sorry. This man pivoted you straight to the top of the league when we didn't jump on him. You did. You put fate with him.
Yep.
He's your Bower. His name is Bowen. But no one's got him in his team. Have you seen those fixtures?
Those fixtures are absolutely rough for West Ham. Starting with Villa, it is at home, but it is Villa. The only light-hearted team I could say they're playing against is Crystal Palace, but that will give them a challenge as well. And I rate Fulham more than West Ham at the moment, so I think that will be a struggle for them as well. The only saving grace they have is playing against Chelsea, because they've also got Man City and slap bang in the middle of those 5 fixtures, which is not going to be easy.
Yeah, I would even think I think West Ham have the worst starting fixtures because their 2 easiest fixtures are away from home, and their 3 home fixtures are against 3 big clubs.
I would say they're tied with Wolves, and we'll touch on Wolves now shortly. But those 2 teams definitely have it. The W teams, they're not taking dubs, they're taking L's.
I could see West Ham sitting in the relegation zone at the end of those 5 weeks.
Yeah, but in the same argument, if anyone does it for West Ham, it's Jared Bowen. So if you want to take a gamble, it's Jared Bowen. It's not Kudus, who's a lot more people have him than Jared Bowen, but I think it's Bowen.
Kudus is an eye player, not a stat player. Yeah. Look at his underlying stats for FPL, not good enough. But if you watch
Bowen's proven.
Beautiful to watch. Bowen is on the stat side of it. But I fear for Bowen because he's coming back from a Euro tournament where he didn't feature enough.
Yeah, mental's going to be low. He's going to have to get running again. Yeah.
I worry about West Ham this season. I really do. And also there's a change of manager and all that stuff.
And it kind of goes hand in hand. You speak about West Ham, you speak about Wolves. Wolves don't have a great start to the season either. They did surprise us last season with Cunha getting some points, with Wang Yi-chan giving us some points. But they also got a tough run of fixtures. They got Arsenal, then Chelsea, which we hope is tough, but probably won't be. Forest will be the only green, easy fixture in that list. And then Newcastle and Villa. So really, between West Ham and Wolves, they're going to be fighting for last because those fixtures are not going to be kind to them.
I have seen Cunha in many teams, though.
It is true. And he's on my list. He's the one that I have to watch out for. He also ended the season with the most points for Wolves. So if you want to go that route for a budget striker, if you can't afford anyone else, you could look at Cunha instead of Pedro. You could look at Cunha instead of Muniz. So yeah, definitely an option.
Spurs, I'd still think about, but West Ham down, I wouldn't touch West Ham, Wolves, or Brentford with a 12-foot FPL ball.
Yeah. Brentford is the next one in the lineup. They got Crystal Palace at home, which is not too bad, but then they're facing Liverpool, City, and Spurs. So tough.
Liverpool, City, Spurs. That's the worst way to start the season.
Yeah. But again, if anyone does it, it's going to be the man, Ivan Toney. If he stays at Brentford,
I don't see that happening. Why would Brentford not cash out on a player that's worth at least 40 million on his contract?
Which leads me to think that if Brentford lose Tony, maybe Mbeumo, but maybe Wisa, but I don't know.
But not for the first 5 games.
I think stay away from Brentford.
FPL, hell. And you missed one team in there.
Well, the last team, the best for last, I would argue. The last season spotless, not Chelsea, but Arsenal. We've got Arsenal on there. You wouldn't think that a team finishing second, challenging for first place, would be among the worst fixtures on our list, but they don't have a good lineup. Other than Wolves and Brighton, who they both have at home, which is fortunate for them, they're playing against Villa, can easily lose. They're playing against Spurs, Derby, can easily lose. Although they beat them last season, still can't just count them out. And then they're playing against last season's champions, Man City.
Both Aston Villa, Spurs, and City games for Arsenal are away. Their three big teams in the top six potentially are away fixtures in the first five. And if by the time Arsenal get to the Spurs game and they've only picked up, let's say, 2 to 3 points, those next two games are going to be knocks to their confidence, and it's going to be an uphill battle.
Yep.
And that's why, for me right now, I am not looking at any defensive Arsenal assets. I know a lot of people are going with the Gabriel, Salibas, the Reyes, the Whites, even this new guy. His name is, let me get it right.
Yeah. While you pull that name up, I just want to mention that I don't have any Arsenal players in my draft, in my first initial draft for the start of the season. So it's definitely someone to be cautious of drafting if you're going to be looking at Arsenal for assets.
Yeah, I didn't want to say his name wrong. It's Calafiori. He's the hot asset right now. And he's going to slot in somewhere in that back line too. I do know Arsenal has one of the best defensive records in the league. You should be able to trust them, but not at those fixtures.
No, and that's a fresh season. We don't know form. I wouldn't risk it. Look, on the alternate side, you can always gamble on it, and then you can be rewarded. But statistically, looking rough.
If I was going to choose players, and I know everyone's got Saka, but for me personally, Saka just come back from the Euros. He hasn't trained with the team yet. He may be be slowly integrated. I'm not going for Saka. Jesus is on fire. Gabriel Jesus is on fire for form.
He's already got 2 goals in his preseason.
Is you starting? I don't know.
That's the thing. I don't know. It's gonna be him or Havertz. That's the thing. I wouldn't go Saka. I wouldn't go template pick from last season. I just wouldn't look at him. Like you say, he hasn't been training. He's not on preseason. He's just come back from Euros. So, yeah.
My logic tells me if I'm going to play an Arsenal player, it's going to be someone I know is going to start. And for me, that person is Odegaard. He's the captain. He also could be on pens because him and Saka were sharing it last season. I know he's going to start. I know he's a creator. I know he's going to move forward. And if Arsenal do well, it's through him. So I'm going to start with Odegaard as my pick for Arsenal. Even if out of all of those 5 teams, if there was one player I would take a gamble on, it's an Arsenal attacking asset because I don't trust defensively with those fixtures.
Well, there you go. I'm going to outro this video, then we carry on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And on that note, that's all we have time for. Thank you guys for watching this week's segment that we've come up with. Just some teams to look out for, just some players to watch. We'll be back with more content. Check out later this week. Over the weekend, there'll be some videos, so be sure to stay tuned. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet. Leave a comment down below. We're happy to answer any questions. If you have any ideas for us as well, we're happy to explore it. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And Mike, we'll see them later on.
Yeah, and feel free to send us your teams. We'll give you some feedback. I love looking at people's teams. I love telling them how wrong they are. Just joking. I love seeing the different perspectives and the different teams that people can come up with. And my opinion is in no way or shape or form the FPL God's opinion of what's right and what's wrong. But I always feel like sharing teams and bouncing ideas makes you think about things from a different perspective. So share your team with us, and then we'll take a look at it and we'll see what we think and how we would like to change your team up.